Good morning, everyone. In the previous session, I'll just recall what all we have discussed. We started with the dot and cross product. We have seen certain identities of dot and cross product. Then we went on to the concept of del operator. It is just like plus minus multiplication and division operator, but individually, just like those operator, it is not having any meaning specifically, but it should be always used, or it should be associated with either scalar or a vector. If it is used along with the scalar, we call it gradient. Del v is a scalar field, and the gradient of scalar, we will get a vector. And if you associate del operator with vector, again there are two possibilities. It can be either a dot product or a cross product. If we denote a vector field, because we have to apply del on vector, so del dot v, we call it divergence. And if it is a cross product, del cross v, it is called the curl. And one more thing we have seen in the previous class regarding the Laplacian. When you apply whatever gradient value you get, this square box, what I have written, if you apply divergence to this, we have seen gradient and divergence separately. If we apply for a gradient the divergence, we will get del square. It is termed as Laplacian operator. And we have seen how the curl is got. It is by using the determinant. And we have seen some basic electrostatics. What do you mean by a charge, a field, the different methods of charging? This was the work given to you to go through in detail about friction, conduction, and induction. Then we have seen some of the conventions used for lines of force for a positive charge and negative charge. And these are the methods of charging. Then after this, we have seen if two charges of same polarities and opposite polarities are brought one near to the other, how the field lines look. Then the laws of electrostatics. Today we have to deal with this Coulomb's law. So let us start. I hope it is visible. It is looking a bit blurred. So let me just make it a little bit. Okay. In the next class, I'll change this slide. Okay. Please excuse me for this. The very first concept in your module 1 is the experimental law of Coulomb. You know already, I think you might have studied this Coulomb's law in physics. Okay, that formula you might be knowing already, but for your study, what is the experiment that he conducted? That background is there. So let us study what he has experimented and what conclusion he has got. Okay, before that, there is one definition you have to look into it. Some laws are made and they are defined only on the basis of certain experimental observations. You know, just trial and errors, they'll do some experimentation, and based on the results they will conclude a general law. Such kind of laws are called empirical laws, and Coulomb's law is one such law, which is an empirical law on experimentation. You know, by doing some changes, trials, changing some values, with all those parameters considered, some experimentation has been done for a long time, and based on the results and the observations, this law has been defined. Now coming to the Coulomb's law. If you see, this is the setup used. We call this torsion balance experiment. TORSION, torsion balance experiment. If you observe here, we have two metallic spheres. Check it. And this is one suspension, that is any thread you can observe. If the metallic spheres are of big size, you can assume this as either a wire or a rope, which is non-conducting. Okay, this is one suspension wire just to hold this particular rod, horizontal rod, which is tied on both ends by these spheres. Okay, and this is the suspension wire and the rod. If you see, this is not charged, only the sphere B is charged, and that too it is positively charged. Okay, and this is not charged, it is just used to balance this rod. Okay, if weight of this is say 2 kgs, similar 2 kg sphere is used here to balance this rod. Okay, equilibrium, neutral condition. Then there is one more sphere here, which is again mounted. This is say some support which is not conducting. Okay, this should not affect your spheres. So this is another non-conducting support is which is used, and this sphere is also positively charged. At first, both are positively charged, and what he did is he took this sphere near to B. What Coulomb did? He took a torsion balance wherein two spheres are suspended and they are at equilibrium. One sphere is charged, positively charged. The other sphere, which is also positively charged, it is brought near to the sphere, A sphere and B sphere. Then he observed what all happened during this, what he did, taking this sphere A near to B. So obviously, you know this already. They both are like charges. Hence, there is a certain kind of repulsion he observed between the spheres. If you try to similarly, you can even do this. Uh, the existence of charges, the experiments based on that, even by taking a what a glass rod and rubbing it against a plastic chair, or even there are many experiments which will give you the what clear confirmation about the existence of charges. That is one part. Here what he did, he just wanted to know what is the observation, what changes occur when he did this. Two spheres of like charges, they are brought near, then obviously there is some kind of force that is existing, and since they are of opposite charges, there is a repulsive force existing between those two spheres. Okay, this is the experiment setup, complete setup. You can see here his apparatus, it is called the torsion balance. Okay, TORSION, torsion balance experiment. Here what he did, a non-conducting rod carrying two spheres B and B dash, and both are of equal weights. It is suspended by a wire. B is charged and B dash is, it is only for a counterweight. Okay, just to match balance the rod. Then A is another similarly charged sphere, similarly, okay, plus plus, mounted on a non-conducting support, where A is brought near to B. This one, if A is brought near to B, the rod it turns, there is a deflection, the movement of the rod due to the repulsive action between A and B. There is a force existing between A and B, and since they both are positively charged, like charges, so there is a force of repulsion. Now as this rod turns, obviously an opposing torque is produced. Okay, as there is existence of force, there will be existence of torque. And if you remember in physics, you might have studied this, force related to torque, which is related to momentum. Okay, all these three parameters are related. So it is there is a torque which is produced in the suspension wire. Okay, wire is hanging like this, the rod is attached like this. So what will happen, there is a torque produced in the suspension wire. Here the wire is tied, that will start deflecting, and the deflection, I will just show you like this. You can even do this experiment at your home. Okay, just rub, you take two balls, metallic balls, you might be having some hollow balls which kids use for playing. Just tie them to a rod, then that rod exactly at the center, maintaining the equilibrium condition, exactly at the center you have to tie the thread or the wire. Then those metallic balls to be rubbed. Okay, because one of the method of charging is friction. So what you do, either you rub that one metallic ball to your head, okay, hairs. When you rub it, due to the friction, the charges come on the surface of the sphere. So you can carry out this experiment. And whatever deflection, you don't think that up and up, up down deflection occurs. It is in horizontal deflection also. And this deflection increases with the increase of angle of twist, this angle of twist. More twisting means more force of repulsion between A and B. Remember, I'm talking about not this. I'm talking about these two spheres, and deflection occurs here. And the twist in this, it is dependent on the angle. Further, just by changing the distance between the charged spheres, what Coulomb did, he measured the force, that repulsive force, as a function of this distance also. Means, as it's an empirical law, obviously some trials and errors he has done. So he experimented with, first thing, changing the position of this, the distance between them, these two spheres, he increased and decreased and observed few points. Similarly, probably he might have changed the weights. He again he observed a few points. He might have changed these charges. One is positive and the other one is negative. Opposite charges. Keeping such charges also, he tried to check the observations. For opposite charges, there is a force of attraction exists. So all these trials and errors was done by the Coulomb by using this torsion balance experiment. So what conclusion he did? He conducted this experiment with both positive and negative charge particles, of course. So Coulomb came to the conclusion that the electric force, that force which exists in between those two spheres A and B, it is always inversely proportional to the square of the distance between the charges. That's what is Coulomb's law. You might have studied this. Inversely proportional. The force of repulsion or attraction, whatever exists, it is inversely proportional to the square of distance between the two charges. And it is directly proportional to the product of the two charges on individual spheres, Q1 and Q2, if you assume two charges to be Q1 and Q2. So this is the experimental setup and the observation made by the Coulomb. I hope you understood the experiment. You can even try, you can even try this experiment, a small experiment, the existence of charges on the surface. You take two balloons, you blow both the balloons and tie the thread for two balloons. And after tying, what you do, both balloons, you rub it to your hair. Okay, friction. Due to the friction, on the surface, the charges get accumulated somewhat like this. I'm just showing you how it is. This is one balloon. This is one more balloon. Hope it looks like balloon. Okay, two balloons are there. So after blowing these balloons, tie the thread so that air will not go out. And after that, you rub these balloons over your hair. If you're if you have applied oil, it is well and good. You rub the balloon surface slowly with the hair. Okay, don't itna bhi mat karo ki wo phut jaye. Just rub it gently for a few seconds, some 30 to 60 seconds, both balloons. And after that, on both the hands, you take one balloon and try to bring those two balloons nearer. You observe what will happen. Okay, you should tell me, you should do this experiment and tell me what conclusion you got once you rub the balloon surface to your hair, and when two balloons are brought near to each other, what observation you did. You have to tell me this. Okay, now coming to the actual Coulomb's law. The Coulomb's law, first statement, then the equation. Coulomb's law states that the electrostatic force, we don't know whether it is repulsive or attractive, between 2 point charges Q1 and Q2, you can even take the notations capital or small, is separated in the free space. It is directly proportional to the product of magnitude of the charges, say Q1 and Q2. Magnitudes are Q1 and Q2. So product is Q1 into Q2, and it is inversely proportional to the square of distance between the two charges. Okay. And as force is a vector quantity, direction is very important. So here also, whatever the force exists, either attractive or repulsive, the direction of that force is important. So the direction of force, that is force, it acts along the line joining the two charges. So this is the statement of Coulomb's law. Now, by considering two charges, just like this, what experiment he did, just considering the two charges and some separated distance between them, we'll try to get the equation. Consider 2-point charges Q1 and Q2 at point A and B, located at point A and B, separated by a distance small r. I have taken it r. From Coulomb's law, very first thing is what? Force is directly proportional to the magnitude of product of magnitude of the two charges. So product is dot. Okay, Q1 into Q2. You can take small also, small Q1 and small Q2. And it is also inversely related to the square of distance between them. Distance is r. So if you combine both, numerator has Q1 into Q2, denominator has r square. If you remove this proportionality sign and put it equal, there will be a proportionality constant K. Okay, and N indicates force is expressed in SI units in newtons. Now, where K is the proportionality constant, in SI units, the value of K is 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught. Okay, generally it is epsilon. Okay, but as we are considering the free space, we'll be having, actually epsilon is given by epsilon naught into epsilon r. But for free space, relative permittivity is equal to 1. That's why it is equal to epsilon naught. And if you try to get the value for this, you can use the calculator, you will get this 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught. I hope you know what is epsilon. Epsilon naught value is 8.854 into 10 to the power of minus 12 farad per meter. Epsilon naught value. I hope you have studied this. So put this epsilon here, epsilon naught here in the denominator, 1 by 4 pi into this much. Whatever answer you get, you write this. Okay, not this, actually this. So substitute this K value. F will be equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 Q2 divided by r square. Now, if two charges are of opposite signs, what kind of force will exist? If the charges Q1 and Q2 are of opposite signs, what kind of force exists? You can unmute and answer me. Yes, attractive force. If the two charges are of opposite signs, there exists attractive force. And if the two charges are of similar sign, same polarities, the force will be repulsive. Okay. And as I said, force is a vector quantity. Direction of this force exerted is very important. So we have to consider the this unit vector in order to get the direction of this force acting. So if we take a suffix r cap as the unit vector, then how it acts according to the definition? According to the statement, it acts along the line joining the two charges. Means if line joining is this, along this only the force exists. Now it depends whether the direction is like this or like this. We will study it. Okay, how to take this direction we will see. So if you consider the unit vector AR cap, then just substitute that for the force. Force, we have already seen that it is according to the Coulomb's law 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught q1 q2 by r square. Just associate a unit vector so that it is completely depicting a vector quantity. And this direction, it depends on what? Basically, the direction of this unit vector, it depends on what kind of charges q1 and q2 are having. Based on that, you will get that. Okay. Once we go through the details of the problems, you'll understand how to take the direction. Now, this is about Coulomb's law, the experimentation, what he did. This is the experiment he did. Then this is the statement, and then this is the equation. So if the question is explain the experimental law of Coulomb, you have to do this much. But if the question is express the Coulomb's law in terms of vector form, okay, no doubt we have got force in terms of the charges and the distance. We have to convert this equation to a vector form. Let's see how to do that. Vector form of Coulomb's law. So in order to get this vector form, initially here I have assumed both the charges are positive charges, means like charges I have considered. So the force exists between these two charges, it is force of repulsion because both are like charges. If you observe, this is the origin. If you check the coordinate system, three-dimensional rectangular coordinate system, origin, it is O and the coordinates are 0, 0. You know this already. And a Q1 is here and Q2 is here. Two charges are there, Q1 and Q2 of same polarities, positive polarities. This is the origin. Then the force produced, it is the force of repulsion. We know this. And this force acts along the line joining of Q1 and Q2. So don't think that, you know, direction is somewhere here or somewhere here or somewhere here or somewhere here. So the line joining is these two. So the force will be like this. Okay. Let Q1 is the charge located at a distance R1 from the origin, and let the charge Q2 be located at a distance R2. From the origin, these two are the distances R1 and R2. R1 and R2 are the position vectors, which gives you the distance between the charge and the origin. So this is the considered figure. Two charges separated by distances R1 and R2 from the origin. Now, R1 and R2 are the position vectors, they extending from the origin. Okay, this I have already told you. Then, okay, how to write this? The vector R12. R12 is in between these two, whatever distance exists. According to the Coulomb's law, we have considered R as the distance, right? Here, R as the distance between two charges. So, here I have taken R as it is between 1 and 2. I have taken the suffix 1 and 2. So R 1 2. How to write this? In the yesterday's cross product value, if it was R suffix AB, you have taken B vector minus A vector, right? In order to get this position vector RAB for cross product problem, second value minus first value. That's why it is R2 minus R1. Okay. This gives the, represents the line segment. That's what the position vector, the distance between Q1 and Q2 is R suffix 1, 2. Now, in vector form, how to represent? In vector form, the Coulomb's law will be in vector form, how to get the force? I am talking about F2. Okay, I'll show you in the next section what is F2 and what is F1. But F2 is the force exerted on the charge q2 due to q1. It is just assume that two of your friends, okay, you and your friend, you are standing at some distance r from each other, okay. This is one, this is other person, okay. Imagine that two people are standing like this at some distance r. Then if a rope is there in both of your hands, and if you try to drag this rope, and this person will try to take the rope on her side, and this person will definitely try to drag this rope on her side. So due to this, if assume this is your charge q1, this is your charge q2. Suppose that this is your charge q1 and this is charge q2, and q2 is trying to drag the rope towards her side, and q1 is trying to drag the rope towards her side. So the force exerted on this q1, okay, the it is by q2 is f1, okay. Similarly, the force exerted on q2 by this person, the first person, 1 and 2, f2 is the force exerted on second person by the first person, and f1 is the force exerted by the first person on the first person by the second person, okay. Imagine, try to imagine two people, say Soumya and Akshita, okay. So that is about F1 and F2. I'll tell you, taking one figure, I'll show you what is F1 and F2. Here, as for this diagram, we are interested in F2, that is force exerted on this Q2 charge by Q1 charge. So direction of this, if you would see the vector triangle, vector addition, if you want to see, this direction is continuous and this is opposite. So R12 plus R1 is equal to R2, right? Both are in the continuity direction. R1 plus R12, you will get R2. Or you rearrange it, you will get this. Now coming to this force, this F2 is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 into Q2 divided by the distance between two charges. That is, here I have considered R12 square, and say A12 is the unit vector considered. Now what changes we can do here? We know this already, the position vector R12, it is R2 minus R1. How? From this triangle R1, it is in this direction, plus R12, R1 plus R12, both are in continuous direction. This is the opposite direction, which is equal to R2. So what will be this equal to? R2 minus R1. That's what is written here. Okay. The same thing we will use it. R12, wait, not before that. Before that, unit vector has been written here, but let's see. The details I'll tell you. The unit vector A12 is the vector, position vector divided by its magnitude. And the position vector, just now we have got R2 minus R1 divided by the magnitude of R2 minus R1. Okay. This is in general the vector form of Coulomb's law. I'll tell you one more with a clear F1 and F2, you'll understand. Okay. If we have only two charges Q1 and Q2, there exists a force, either a repulsive force or attractive force. If you assume that there are multiple charges, okay, not even only two, there are many charges, say Q1, Q2, then Q3, Q4, like that, then obviously, say between these two, some force exists, between these two, some force exists, between these two. Likewise, many forces exist between each pair. Okay. So the resultant of all these forces is what? It is just the sum of, vector sum of all the forces. You have to just calculate what is this force, what is this force, and what is the force between these two charges. Likewise, after getting all forces, say F1, F2, F3, F4, you have to add all the forces to get the total force exerted. Okay. Okay, this is important. I was talking about this F1 and F2. Consider this. You have charge Q1 and Q2 and origin. From the origin, drag this. From the origin, drag this. There should be continuity, right? If it is F12, it indicates force exerted on the first value, force exerted on Q1 due to Q2, force exerted on Q1 due to Q2. During that, the direction will be towards Q1. Okay, rope is coming, rope is the other person is trying to drag towards her side, but Q1 is also trying to drag the rope. So in that meanwhile, the direction of this line joining will be towards Q1 because the first suffix is 1, so it is towards Q1. And similarly, if you consider one more figure where F21 represents the force exerted on Q2 by Q1, force exerted on the second charge. So that's why the direction is towards second charge. That's the difference between these two figures. If you observe the direction of this capital R, it is different in both the figures. But however, everything, the distance from origin is same in both the cases. Charges Q1 and Q2 are same in both the cases. Sorry. However, the force F12 indicates force on Q1 due to Q2. F21 indicates force on Q2 due to Q1. So whatever first suffix is there, towards that the direction exists. And since the direction is in this way, force is also extended in this way. That's how we determine the direction. This capital R's direction is based on this suffix. Okay. Because it is in this direction, so line joining direction is continued. It will give you the force direction. Here the line joining first suffix is 2, hence it is in this direction, and since it is like this, the force will also be in the same continued line direction. Okay, I hope you understood the directions of the forces. So F12 is force exerted on first due to second. F21 is force exerted on second due to first. Then this we know it already. In the previous section we have seen it is force exerted is 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught in both the cases. Q1 Q2 by the distance you observe. In the first case it is R21, in the second case it is R12. First case it is R21, second case it is R12. And whatever suffix you have used here, the same for unit vector. Okay, unit vector, I think earlier I have taken small a, here I have taken R. No issues, you can take small a also. So what will be this unit vector? Unit vector will be this whatever distance is there, that vector divided by its magnitude. Now how to get this R21? R21 how to get? See, continuity, one direction plus second direction is equal to third direction. So R21 plus R2 is equal to R1. So what is R21 is equal to? R1 minus R2. R1 minus R2. Okay, and divided by the magnitude of that R1 minus R2. Just substitute this here in the force equation. If you substitute this value, simply substitute it, and this R21 I have substituted magnitude, R1 minus R2 square. It is square. Okay. Here you will do one mistake. Simply you will just cancel this. It will not. This is a vector. This is the magnitude. It cannot be done. Remember. That's why this is power 1 magnitude. This is power 2. Hence the power is 3 in the denominator. And numerator, it is a vector. Keep it as it is. Denominator, it's a magnitude. Okay. This is one calculation. Similarly, try to do the another calculation. For second one, 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught q1 q2 divided by, what is the distance? R12. So go for that distance R12. And what is this unit vector? This R12 distance divided by the magnitude. How to get R12? R12, check. This is one direction, continuity direction. This plus this is equal to third one, that is R2. So what is this value? It is equal to R2 minus R1. Okay, take this to the right hand side. R2 minus R1. Hence it is R2 minus R1 divided by the magnitude. Substitute that unit vector in the force equation. So force will be this. Substitution. After substitution, take this powers 2 and 1. So power will be 3 and this vector as it is. If you observe between F12 and F21, just these are all reversed. Here it is 1 minus 2. Here it is 2 minus 1. It depends on the suffix. 1 and 2, 1 minus 2. 2 and 1, 2 minus 1. So if you observe equation 1 and 2, first force is negative of the second force. If you take negative common here, you will get the second equation. Okay. So both magnitudes are same, but opposite direction. Negative indicates direction of the force. If you observe here, this is extremely towards left side. This is extremely towards right side. So these two directions are completely opposite. Directions are completely opposite. It doesn't mean that magnitudes are not same. Both values, both the magnitudes of the forces are equal. Only they are opposite in direction. Negative sign indicates the direction. So what all we dealt in today's class? We started with the Coulomb's law, how the experiment was